Here we go. Let's play the game. Let's get that innocent verdict. This is the defendant lobby, all right, but there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? Where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Edgeworth. Knowing you, you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, Wright, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it. I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth. Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, right? This is it. If I'm ever gonna find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. Man, my feet are still cold. Before the stream, I was like, alright, I'll put on 2 pairs of socks. I feel like it's my slippers. These slippers used to work so well, and now, like, I feel like they're sucking all the heat out of my feet. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant. You want, man? Morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, Udgy. I've been back to the pool yet. No, I've been drowning enough, as it is in my work. That's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours? I hate when he does this. Lana, that is to say the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. Don't like this. What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request, and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21 of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. Oh, Lana. Am I replying the impeachment? What do you mean? Specify. You can't. Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Alana, Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. While the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation, the request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. My replaying the impeachment. I haven't seen anything about it. They just had the impeachment hearing vote or whatever tonight. I was it just like, hey, we're talking about the articles impeachment, or were they like, all right, Trump is impeached, he's out of the office, and we never have to worry about him ever again. You'll have to give me the details on what that is. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening. It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
Objection!
Let's go, Edgeworth. One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth, the prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut, Let's go, Edgeworth. I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal? Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh, to whom? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to contend. I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. Ooh, snaps. Nope, he's impeached, but gotta have another trial to see if he loses his job. And you heard he can still run again. That doesn't make any sense. Granted, I don't really know all too much about impeachment or anything like that, but that's pretty big news. I figured Twitter would be way more crazy about it, but I haven't really heard all that. Well, I see the stuff, but that's crazy. That's crazy. Wait, isn't the whole point of impeachment to lose your job? I need to read up on that. Very well, the court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy. You'll live to regret this, mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Isn't this where I get the stepping because I'm no longer a lawyer in this case? Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. Sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant? Yes, it most certainly is. Hey, what's up, Heels? Well, okay then. He sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. Yeah, you don't know, it's a weird process. You're just kind of worried about the aftermath. What if we go into civil war or some crazy stuff? I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't think Trump has that much pull, but it certainly is interesting news for sure. I'm definitely going to read up on it after the stream. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. It's a good thing you weren't harmed. I passed out. I don't remember much. That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination. Did the game forget that I was just fired? I think the game forgot I was fired. Okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna go along with it. 2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct? Yes, she was second in command under then Deputy Chief Police Gant of police. My sister, she was the best detective ever. Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair. I believe they shared the same office. That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk. My dream about playing that organ, and my dream about playing the organ, whatever. I wanted to play it that day, too. The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. Oh, heels, man. You're never going to get any points if you do that. A man came running in and took me hostage. A man? Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right? Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Skye and Gant's office. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him. Neil Marshall rescued me. What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning, Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony. I assumed that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark. When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead. And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in. I don't clearly remember what happened then, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out. The lights? It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby. So the electricity went out. Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right? Right. But just then, lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind. I see. I told the detective about what I saw then. The detective? Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case. Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. Hear more? So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago. Should have saved right there, maybe. Yes. That's what's so scary about this trial. And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw. Yes. But at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture? Yes, I think she mentioned that before. Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough? Ask about the picture. This picture the witness drew. I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony? Yes, Your Honor. I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost. Drew a picture of the scene you witnessed, right? Yes, I wanted to do everything I could to help the investigation. I can still see it now, whenever I close my eyes. That's strange. I took over the case after Prosecutor Marshall died, yet I never received any picture. Perhaps the witness is mistaken? But I did draw it, I swear. I'm not just imagining it. This picture that Emma drew, that reminds me. Guess I should check the evidence again. Well, anyway, let's continue. The scene that imprinted an image in your mind. Can you please describe it to us? The man. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. That must have been a real shock. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can still see it just as clearly. Tell us, what were you doing at that moment? I believe you testified that Joe Dark was holding you hostage. When lightning struck and the lights went out, Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. I was thrown aside and the two began wrestling each other. I'm pretty sure I was watching them. Emma doesn't have any reason to lie. Alana sure does. I need to get Emma to tell me as much about this as she can. Okay. Go ahead and let's save. Let's go ahead and present the evidence list. Mr. Edgeworth. This little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet, you would insist on denying its existence. Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that the prosecutor for that case, as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold. This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident. Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over? Turn it... What's this? Yes, what is that? Hey, that's it. That's the picture I drew. Indeed, two men appear to be wrestling here. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list. These lists, they're different from each other. What? It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? Order! But Miss Skye, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list? Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor. Wait a minute. This list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor. Are you all right, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head. If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list. Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth. It's possible. Let's see. I feel like any time he held up the list, you know, people would have saw that, but it could have been those nice little, like, folder things where, you know, they have like a cover in the back, but you can put them in like 3-ring binders and things like that. Something wrong. Do you even have to ask? Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. It's that thing. That's that thing. That thing was dancing in the evidence room. Clearly, this is an act of this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper. This list restored and updated in the court record. Very well. I wanna see it. Okay. I wonder why that's important. Witness, will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago? Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor. Hey, it's that thing. What's wrong with Emma? She seems to be thinking about something when she was looking at the picture. Is it because he didn't have a knife in his hand? He had the halberd? I know what's going on. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. See, this testimony right here, this is probably, so far, one of the best testimonies that we actually got around to, because we didn't actually catch the witness like lying or omitting certain things. The witness told us a story of what happened, and she's like, hey, I drew this picture, but it was lost. And we're like, hey, we've got a picture right here. And she's like, oh, that's my picture. And now we're like, hey, tell us about this picture that you can clearly see right here. And I feel like this is the most lawyery witness testimony cross-examining that we've had in this game yet. And I like it. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind. Thanks to that thought, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. After you're done with this game, you also want to hear my least favorite witness. I don't think that's going to be a tough one. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Picture she drew 2 years ago. Did you draw this picture right after the incident? I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first, I was in such a state of shock that I couldn't do anything. During that time, the investigation team was reorganized. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Skye. 2 or 3 days later, the memory should still have been fresh in her mind. Excuse me, witness. Can you please tell us why this picture is painted all black? The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. So at the time, you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue. No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lightning was so bright, and I was knocked to the floor. You were knocked to the floor? Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. Turned around. And that's when the lightning flashed. Poor Emma. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. What happened after the lightning flashed? After that, I must have fainted. You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place? No. I'm sorry. A flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? What? Hey, I'm not the bad guy here. Anyway, this picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Exactly. Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw? Of course, this is the exact scene. It wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives. Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not. I better watch out, or he might find some way to cut my salary. I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me. Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture? Hold up. Yes, there is. Oh, well... That's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind. And yet, there's clearly a contradiction here. Oh, okay. I'll take this L. I'll take this L. That's not the, like, that's the evidence that I want to refer to, but it's not the evidence that I should bring up to do that. I need to bring up this. Or not. Alright, well, definitely not taking that L. So, I want to point out that the murder weapon doesn't look like a knife. And I still think it's the King of Prosecutors trophy, but there's no way that this would be the evidence that I would have to present. Yeah. I'll take this L. There's clearly a contradiction here. What would contradict it? I don't even know what this is. Hamburger can be seen on the leather cloth. It belongs to Emma. Go keep this location. Oh, did he say location? What did he say? Whatever. Doesn't matter. Could try the autopsy report. But we're talking about the picture right now. Well, I guess the autopsy report could be used here. There we go. Even though I like my ideas better, you know, show the knife, show the picture, and be like, hey, this doesn't look like a knife. Or show the picture and be like, hey, are you sure this is a knife? Instead, we show the autopsy report and we're like, hey, he was stabbed with a knife. I think all of those could have worked, but you know, whatever. Whatever. Overthinking it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts testimony? Contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright. But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too. If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body. It wasn't the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer. Or was, or something. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. Objection! And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. To the back? If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. What's the meaning of this? Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right. What does this mean? The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Object to everything. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence. You're treading on thin ice, Wright. All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Arg. Order. Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. This is my belief that somewhere in this story there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man was really holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. I got this. I got this. Could there have been another one? There is another one. The witness is adamant about the accuracy of what she saw. It can't be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright. In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife. If so, please feel free to enlighten us. I'm not going to say it. Oops. Oops. Okay, it's okay. Take a look at this. The real murder weapon. Please don't be this. Please don't be that. Alright, I'm gonna go with this. Please make it be this. Because it'll make me happy. If anything's broken here, you. Huh? I'm sure this must all be very amusing to you, Mr. Wright. May I remind you? Okay. Okay, fine. Well, it was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Alright. Alright, clearly I should have saved. Like, my goodness. Guess we're going with this. Alright. Man, where was my previous save? Like, my goodness. Screwdriver. I mean, could it have been this? I mean, I really, really, really doubt it. I don't know. Maybe the photo? The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Okay, I had like all the right ideas, but I guess presenting the award and be like, there used to be something here is suckerful. Right here inside this picture. This is a picture of the awards ceremony. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife. Isn't a halberd a polearm axe? I feel like that doesn't look very polearmy with an axe. I mean, the axe is broken off, but as we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Order. Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. Oh, and why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors Award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Oh. But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. Why can't you just say that Joe Dark pulled out the knife? You know? Hello? You would have given me credit for presenting the trophy. I feel like that's something later games got more flexible on, being more flexible on accepting multiple pieces of evidence that could apply. I really do think the trophy was the best piece of evidence, and you can use the picture as supporting evidence, but I can see how the game would flip-flop that, because you can actually see the weapon in the photo, yada yada. But I think both of them would lead to the exact same conclusion and say the exact same things, so it's disappointing. But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? But as long as it shows the player knows what they intend. Yeah, exactly. It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Wait, I remember now. I remember everything. Witness, Mr. Edgeworth. What is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please? His list, the one with that picture scribbled on the back. I knew it. This picture. I'm the one who drew it. What? You drew that? That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me. Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye? Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up, and now the blue badger. This should be interesting. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. This is certainly most unusual. Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him. The chief of detectives had not even designed. I think that might be a typo. I think that might be a typo. Designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. Stop, please, don't pursue this any further. Oh, Snops. Snops. Lana, what's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair. But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Sky. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Silence. The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. Seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. That's the first, like, on the add-on one, it's a typo. Like, this whole game, I don't think there was a single typo. That's crazy. When I saw that man raise his knife... When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark. Yes, at least I think it was him. You think? All I could really see were shadows. The power outage that immediately preceded the incident is also documented in the prosecutor's office reports. So then you... I panicked and rushed toward both of them. Why would you do something so dangerous? What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall. She seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife. But as we've just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife. Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that Dark guy knocked me down, all I could think was, I've got to help the other person. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. What do you mean you think? It all happened so fast. I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all kind of a blur. Miss Sky was almost killed before she was witness to a murder about to take place. With so much happening in a matter of seconds, a little disorientation is only natural. I saw the man about to stab the other person, who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife. What you did was very brave, young girl. So then, what happened next? Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. And I'm riding on 1 health right now. I feel like I should save. We're gonna save right here. Of course. See? I even drew a picture of him here. It was the chief of detectives who thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The blue badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable. I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I've seen him before somewhere. Now I finally remember. Oh, brother. Just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing? He wasn't in the room, but I sure saw his shadow. His shadow? So you mean you didn't actually see his face? With its winning smile and all. That's right, but I still remember it. It had 3 creepy horns. This is pointless. It's the vase. It's the vase. It's the shadow of the vase. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh, and I suppose you have an explanation? If so, then by all means, please tell us what this shadow really is. What was it that Emma saw? Lightning flashed. Who is this blue badger? Badger hadn't even been dreamt up when Emma drew this picture, yet she certainly saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the defense's belief that on the fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room. Mr. Wright. In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? I'll save right here again. Please show us the mysterious badger look-alike. I want to go with this. You think it could work? I think it could work. I think it could work. It's not an exact copy, but we're rolling with it. The mysterious blue badger was, in fact, this. But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it's some sort of jar. But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger. Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint? Got to show them. Well, it's definitely not this side. The music is super helping. I'm gonna go with this, I guess. I don't know, it could be something like that too. I'm very non-committal on this thing. I feel like it would have been something like this. Something similar to that, but we're gonna go with this first. Take our first L. You're 100% expecting me to die, presenting the wrong side of the urn? I am expecting that as well. This doesn't fit very well. We're making progress here. I don't know if that piece that's missing should actually be there or not, so I'm just assuming that it's not. This kind of looks like him, right? Right? This is probably much closer. But, we're gonna go with this. Here we go, death number 1. Isn't right, I've got to make it look more like the badger. Allow me to remind the defense, its case hinges on the witness's drawing. If Mr. Wright can't match the shape the witness drew, we cannot accept his claim. Got to find just the right angle. Maybe I should rotate it vertically a bit more, or horizontally. Correct angle. Maybe from the top instead of the bottom? Not that you know what side is top or bottom. I was thinking the exact same thing as I was going through this. I was just like, one of these has to be the top. Alright, well, we're gonna be here for a while, folks. Alright, so it's very clear that these little thingamabobbers are supposed to be, you know, the little thingamabobbers, so they need to be tilted downwards somehow to signify that they're the little loopy things. Oh, this is actually not too horrible here. See if we flip that around. So that would mean it probably wouldn't be. I mean, could it have been? No. No. So it has to be this side. Because it's towards the, like, the top of the head. Something like that. Something like that. I mean, can you see it? I think I can see it. Looking down at the skinny end with the two handles on the upper right. Let's try that real quick. Nope. Like this angle is kind of there as well. But like, am I supposed to... I'm guessing I'm supposed to get it exactly. Like, this thing, like, it must not be a shadow, and I'm trying to think of it like a shadow. The problem here is You had it before, just not quite perfect. So my one before was this way. Yeah, a little bit more. Something like that. I mean, not the curve doesn't really go, but that's it? All right. Nope. Just keep trying. We'll get it eventually. Finally. Freaking A, man. Well, is this a miracle or what? Fuckers. No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger. No, it can't be. Order. The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this. Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So, that blue badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed? Very well then, please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? I don't know. I really don't know. Is that the window? The location, the murder weapon, the murderer. The location. Because the statue is on by Gant's desk. And so the jar had to have been over there. Flat out. Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it is these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, The struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place at Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room in Chief Gant's office. It's the same office, dog. Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Oh, brilliant deduction there, Phoenix. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? Finally figured it out. No, I haven't. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. Too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying? The impact the man made when he was knocked to the wall, or into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, I may draw your attention to this picture once more. The man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on. What would he have hit? The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes. There was another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility. Of course, the perpetrator would have no idea, but nevertheless. I don't know if I can go through with this. Mr. Wright, what's the matter? If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Skye knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall, she killed him. Oh. Dang. You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? Oh, dang. No. Never imagined her testimony would lead to this. So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented. What are you saying? I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? Imagine that coming from you. This is why all the other witnesses lie. This is still the best witness testimony cross-examining in the game, because it's so honest, and it's me presenting evidence to not catch the lie, but to find the truth per se. You know, if you want to get poetic about it, I guess. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't. Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence. If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. We certainly can't get dead people to testify. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. We actually can get dead people to testify. It's been done before. Touché, Miss Sky. Of course. That only leaves us with one possibility. The possibility of saving. Because I only have 1 HP. You mean there's still another possibility? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life. In one manner or another. That's impossible. Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist? It sure does. I've got to think back to the court record. Real murderer's name is left in the evidence. It's on the jar. This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek. We seek justice, too. The truth. No matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys the message from the deceased. So it's not... It's like a... Is it... No, that's not a 7. That's like a V. V-dub representing Deutschland. Message left by... Or this is the message left by the deceased. This is that blue badger from before, right? Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here, on the surface of this jar. What do you mean? If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. Actually, that is a 7. Looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away. Yes, there is a line here drawn in blood. So what you're saying is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. Let's keep in mind that he did this in pitch black darkness, which doesn't make much sense. One that someone apparently wiped away. But blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No. Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us? Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal us the answer. I'm gonna have to connect the dots, literally. Got to connect these dots. Make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written, given the circumstances. Murderer's name. Okay. This goes here. Goes here. Dang. I was legit reading this the whole time, and I was like, Oh, that's an M. It's gonna say Damon. Oh, but wait, there's only like three, or there's only gonna be a couple of letters. So maybe it's like just the three letters in his name. But then I was over here and I was just like, what could this possibly be? And then I thought, dang. Dang. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Good job sending a little science-loving girl to die. Emma. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. I mean, she killed somebody. You gotta pay the price. Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Skye. Get bodied. Seaworthy? Can't say I didn't warn you. Chief Gant, do you understand the implications of what you've done? What? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. Oh man. Poor Edgeworth. But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. Afraid that's not important. Didn't you know? We weren't defenders of justice. What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery, ultimately the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? He might have sent an innocent man to his death? How can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order! Shut your suckerful mouths! The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. Dang, it's already 7:18. Alright. Well, I get to save myself. We'll do that. We'll mark that.